There are many places in America where ghosts are said to linger, tainting the living with their eternal presence. The White House is supposedly haunted by Abraham Lincoln's ghost, and people say that if you walk through the halls at night, you can hear his ghostly footsteps. Salem, Massachusetts is another place where it's said that ghosts roam freely, haunting the town square and the streets where they hanged witches in the 17th century. But one of the most haunted historic sites in all of America is the site of the Battle of Gettysburg. Over 6,000 men died here in just 3 days, and some say their spirits never left. Today, we'll be exploring the ghosts of Gettysburg. It was the summer of 1863, and the Civil War had been raging for over 2 years. The Union and the Confederacy had fought many battles, but none would prove to be more decisive than the battle that would soon take place in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. On July 1st, Confederate troops under the command of General Robert E. Lee entered the small town of Gettysburg. They were met by a Union cavalry force led by General John Buford. What started as a minor skirmish soon grew into a major battle. By nightfall, both sides had suffered heavy losses, but neither army would retreat. For 2 more days, the armies of the North and the South clashed on the hills outside of Gettysburg, resulting in some of the bloodiest fighting the war had ever seen. Pickett's Charge, also called the Charge of the Light Brigade, is considered the turning point of the Civil War. It was during this charge that Robert E. Lee lost his horse, which fell dead under him after being struck by a Union artillery shell. Lee would go on to lose the battle and eventually retreat back down south, ending his second and final invasion of the North. But not every soldier was so fortunate. Over 6,000 men died in and around Gettysburg. Nearly 40,000 were wounded, and some say their spirits never left the battlefield. It didn't take long for stories of strange activity to begin surfacing on the Gettysburg battlefield. The first documented sighting of a ghost came from a visitor in 1866, just 3 years after the battle. A Mr. West, who was visiting from Indiana, wrote about an experience he had while touring the battlefield with his brother-in-law. They were walking along the route that the Confederate Army took when suddenly they heard what sounded like the trampling of horses and the clash of arms. As they stood there listening, the sounds grew louder, and then right before their eyes, they witnessed the apparition of some 200 mounted soldiers riding toward Little Round Top. The horsemen were dressed in gray uniforms and were armed with sabers and pistols. They were then joined by another group of 200 infantrymen who were marching in column. After passing by our witnesses, the phantom soldiers continued on until they disappeared from view. In 1899, 2 men named Harry D. Littell and J.J. Dilling were driving along the road that runs between Gettysburg and Hanover when they came across a group of soldiers that had been drinking in a field along the roadside. After talking with the soldiers for a few minutes, they noticed something strange. None of them appeared to have any shadows. Soon after, the men began to march off into the woods. Little and Dilling decided to follow them, and that's when they saw something that made the hair on the back of their necks stand up. The soldiers were all dressed in old-fashioned uniforms and were carrying weapons that looked like they'd been crafted in the 1700s. When the 2 men tried to speak with them, they could not get very close before the soldiers vanished into thin air. In 1910, a local woman named Helen Viola was tending to her flowers when she saw the ghost of a young woman wandering through the town. She was wearing a long, flowing dress and her face was pale and sorrowful. When Helen asked the woman if she needed any help, she replied that she was looking for a young man in blue. She had lost him during the battle and was now searching for his remains so she could bury them properly. Helen offered to help her search, but the ghost only shook her head and slowly faded away. Not only are visitors to the battlefield experiencing these strange apparitions, but those who work there have also witnessed some truly frightening things. In 1934, a caretaker named John B. Cook was driving his tractor across the field when he saw the ghost of a young woman standing in front of him. He stopped the tractor and introduced himself, and the ghost told him her name was Lizzie. She had been killed during the battle when a stray bullet had struck her in the head. Mr. Cook promised to find her grave and take care of it. And ever since then, People have reported seeing the friendly ghost of Lizzie walking along the battlefield. But not all of the ghosts that haunt Gettysburg are so benevolent. There have been many reports of disembodied footsteps and gunshots echoing across the battlefield long after the sun has gone down. Visitors have also reported feeling a cold spot or sensing someone standing behind them even when there is no one else around. Some believe that these are the spirits of the thousands of soldiers who lost their lives here and are now forever trapped on this hallowed ground. Others say that they are simply tricks of the mind, playing tricks on those who come to visit this historic site. But there may be more evidence for these claims than most people realize. Scientists from the University of Virginia used special cameras to capture images on the battlefield. These images revealed something truly amazing. They captured images of what appeared to be actual soldiers fighting on the battlefield. These apparitions were not only visible to the naked eye, but they were also picked up by the cameras as well. Is this evidence of real ghosts? Or could there be another explanation? One of the most famous ghosts that haunts the battlefield is that of Private William Opie Reese. Reese was a member of the 20th Maine Regiment, and he was killed in action on July 3, 1863. His body was never recovered, and many believe his ghost still wanders the battlefield where he died. People have reported seeing the ghost of Reese many times over the years, and he is considered to be one of the most active spirits that haunt Gettysburg. Another ghost that has been spotted at Gettysburg is that of Major General John Buford. Buford was a general in the Union Army, and he played a key role in the battle. He was killed in action on July 1, 1863, and his body was brought back to Pennsylvania for burial, while his physical remains were laid to rest in the churchyard of Christ Church in Gettysburg. Some say that his ghost still wanders the battlefield where he died. But perhaps the most tragic ghost of Gettysburg is that of the unknown soldier. Over 6,000 men died at Gettysburg, and many of them were never identified. One of these soldiers is buried in the Soldiers' National Cemetery in Gettysburg, and his grave is marked with a simple headstone that reads, "Here rests in honored peace a Major General officer, gallantly and unknown." Some believe that the spirit of this unknown soldier still lingers at Gettysburg, searching for his lost comrades. Is Gettysburg really haunted? That's up for you to decide. There is no denying that strange things have happened here, and many people have witnessed unexplainable phenomena. Perhaps the most compelling evidence is the photos taken by scientists that show apparitions of soldiers on the battlefield. But others argue that these are simply tricks of the light or tricks of the mind. We may never know for sure what lurks in the shadows of Gettysburg, but one thing is certain: the spirits of those who died here will never be forgotten. If you want to visit the battlefield for yourself, it's open year-round from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Admission is free, but donations are always appreciated. Just be sure to bring a camera. You never know what you might capture on film. So, what do you think? Have you ever seen a ghost at Gettysburg? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching.